So first is how I want to start from now on. You guys tell me what you think. And then we're literally going to start the podcast, but keep it in the back of your mind. How would you introduce yourself to me?
If you would have asked me that literally like 2 weeks ago, it would have been way more difficult to respond to that. But literally just came up with a couple words that I would say. I am Junior Alonso. I am an actor, a comedian, a host, a performer, and a producer.
Wow.
And I am grateful to be here.
Thank you, bro.
In the club with you.
So
the
selfishly,
creative club.
Selfishly, I'm asking everyone that question just to make it also easier for me to do the show notes. Because now I could just grab that first 10 seconds. Like Junior Alonso is a underscore all what you just said. But
perfect.
Then also it kind of, all right.
Let me flip it to you.
Because then actually ask me what you're going to ask me.
I want to know you're introducing yourself to me. Because I thought maybe you were just using it to like get adjectives for yourself and titles in case you're looking.
No, because I like to see how people describe themselves. Like, or how they see themselves.
Well, that's how I see myself professionally, right?
There's no limit to the answer.
Yeah, well, that's why we got 365 days. Buena gente, like creative. That's why we're here right now. That's why we've been linked for a minute, because we have that in our DNA for sure. A peaceful dude, bro. Buena gente, yeah.
Buena gente.
Cuban Rick Rubin, right?
Rick Rubin. That's the one I was looking for.
Cuban Rick Rubin. Cuban Rick Rubin.
When do you think that creativity first, like when was that first spark, like in your childhood? Not like professionally or like as a career. I'm talking about like when do you think that first started that you were like, I kind of think different?
From the beginning.
Your mom's womb? Like Terrence
probably.
Howard?
Hey, man. I heard a lot of things in there. I would say from the beginning because I'm an only child. So a lot of alone time, coming up with ideas and just getting lost in my imagination. So I was raised with, I would say, the TV and radio. And then my parents and my grandma in another room. So I kind of had like this like crazy thing to pick from to really like be with the viejos and like get this funny humor. Cuban American. My parents came in 1980 and in Mariel. They have that like funny Que Pasa USA to them too. So having that humor, but then also getting lost in like my other worlds that I was getting lost in TV and radio. So I would say as a kid, probably like recreating things that I would like see on TV, hear on the radio, whether it's like voices or characters, putting on shows with like toys in the room and like bringing them to life. So very, very early in the game.
That's super interesting because I've been thinking about it obviously now because I have a daughter and the whole like TV, like should she be watching TV? But then when you like even hearing an answer like that, you realize like everyone kind of did that as a child.
Yeah.
Like you watch TV and then you try to emulate it and then you try to like recreate certain things that you like. But then like you people tell you, oh, that's not a good thing.
I think it's because of what's being on on the screen nowadays. And there's like way more access to more screens, period.
Correct.
So like before you're like,
it's only the channels.
You had a TV period in the crib, like anywhere in the crib. So I was blessed to have 2 TVs, one in the living room, and I was able to have one because they knew like, can't give them a sibling or something. And like we're not gonna give them a dog or something else too. So but I guess able to get a TV with a VCR. So I was living like a king, you feel me?
All screens.
But more screens, more access to more things and stuff. And what's on the screens is completely different. Like legit, I'm not gonna lie, I grew up PBS.
Yeah.
I'm a PBS kid.
Bob
Ross, Mr. Rogers, LeVar Burton, Reading Rainbow, Steve Irwin, Sesame Street, The Muppets, like all of that, like
bangers.
Yo, Bill Nye later on, like.
But it's funny because like that, me and my wife try to when she does watch TV, it's like the old shit,
Yeah.
the shit that we grew up on. That we're like, yo, it's like kind of stimulating, but it's not like wow in your face, like. But I think
it's inviting.
Yeah, but it's crazy because like, I guess it's hindsight is 2020. But like, if we wouldn't, our parents would have known like what 2024 would look like, we probably would have watched a lot more TV and like done more creative shit.
We would have watched
more encouraged. No, been more encouraged.
Because I think it would have been like, yo, the complete opposite route. If we knew growing up in the 90s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, what would be happening now and stuff, we probably would have all been like Amish or something.
Like cut all the TV like immediately.
Completely.
Yeah, it's true. You don't know which way.
To kind of like preserve what we had before. It was more of a, I don't know, more of like an innocence, I guess.
So you think growing up in an environment like that influenced like your creative thinking, your creativity? Or because you also play sports, right?
Yeah. I would say the creative part was the outlet from the sports that was the foundation already like implemented into my life. Like that was the background. I'm an only child, but I had a bunch of cousins that the closest one was 8 years older than me, but all of them played baseball. Like all of them played baseball, a little bit of basketball, but it was a Cuban baseball family. Like, so I wasn't really, I wouldn't say allowed, but I wasn't really encouraged to pursue too much of a creative outlet or passion.
And do you think that like kind of manifested while you were playing sports, where you're like, you always had that like itch, or you were just like focusing into
big facts?
You were like the class, the team clown, or
somewhat, but it was more just like from a like a hospitality standpoint. Like I wanted to make sure everybody was like good and included and having a good time. And I was just the fun-loving guy that you definitely can tell like I didn't take it as serious as other people.
Right.
But it was also because I wasn't the dude, like that wasn't my role to be the one to take it that serious, I guess.
You knew early on,
but
like that
when
wasn't...
it's game time, yes.
Oh, gotcha.
Like I was that dude too.
But that's crazy because you said you were like the guy, hospitality, that wanted everyone to feel good and like, you know, kind of bring the team together, make it more like not as serious as it should be. And then like you did kind of have that role later in your life when you started working like in nightlife and all that and the heat, and like you've always been that dude.
Yeah. I kind of attribute that to being an only child. A lot of people when they meet me, they're like, "Really, you're an only child?" Like I feel like you have like 10 brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I didn't know that till right now.
Well, Robbie, drop a bomb on it. We don't know what just played. But
I don't know what button to press.
I could probably attribute it to literally being an only child and the whole like people watching and everything. A gift and a curse. That was something that I had this revelation like 2019. Is that I make everything personal and I take everything personal, and that's because of my parents. I would say my dad taught me how to make everything personal, and then my mom taught me how to take everything personal.
Wow.
And it's unfortunate. That's why it's a gift and a curse, but there's a lot of fortune to it. That's why I'm able to like see the missing pieces, be able to see like people, how they vibe and what their vibe is and what they're looking for. I try to like help guide them in that direction and stuff. So yeah, I've been doing it my entire life and always looking to like help people grow together. Like there's a strength in numbers and huge on like collaboration. My major was in communications, and I've always just like focused on just like the art of communication, not communication arts, but the art of communication and the like infinite ways that it can get by.
Like, what do you mean the art of communication?
there's literally so many ways that you can communicate, from like the basic levels of talking about like messaging during communication, nonverbal communication. You go to the gym, right? Like it's a funny like running meme and joke with guys. How do guys become best friends? You go to the gym like 5 times in a row. The first time you don't know each other. The second time it's like a head nod. The third time you dab each other up. The fourth time, hey, are you done with that set? You need a spotter? Fifth time you're showing up together, sharing protein and stuff like.
I seen that one of jiu-jitsu, yeah. The other day.
Did you have that experience too?
First
like,
day we're like,
you probably have like family for life there because you started
and
like,
you would have never
who the
thought.
hell's this guy? Like, oh,
100%.
Like, I don't care. Like,
damn, so you like really studied how to talk to people.
From the get, I had a lot of alone time, right? To be the fly on the wall. So not that I was like alone, like just like sitting in my room 24/7, but family party. I'm too young to be with the cousins. I'm too young to be with the rest of the family. So I'm just chilling there. There's no other baby. There's no other younger kid either. Like, so it's kind of like I'm just pinballing from conversation to conversation. I found myself seeing a lot of myself in like Macaulay Culkin, like Kevin McAllister vibes.
Oh, like he's the middle in between.
Yeah,
like,
he would just like go from like group to group, even though he had like cousins his age or whatever. But like the way he approached certain like little groups and stuff was the same way that I would literally go up to my uncles and they'd be drunk as hell talking about politics. I'm 6 years old or whatever, and they'll be no, you know. I'm literally just looking back and forth, looking back, and then I just walk away and start imitating them. No, like I don't care what they're saying. It's just like I take their mannerisms, I like embody them, whatever. Go to the next group, and like I would just like adopt all these little nuances and intricacies of what it's like to be them and what it's like to be human overall. So the communication, like it plays into that because I just like I like morphing into whatever's necessary, not like in a fake way, but in a hospitality way, like
make the person feel comfortable.
Yeah. So like I'm always gonna make an effort to like have you as comfortable as possible and give you that whole like I come in peace.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to
do. It's crazy because that's like, I guess not so much common sense, but some people don't have that like social awareness. They just come in hot.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, like what do you like?
There's levels to this.
I still say the best class I ever took in FIU was the human in society.
Wow. Michael Rodriguez.
Maybe, dude.
That's the only class that changed my life in FIU.
That's the only class I remember. Individual in society. Yes, sir. Wow.
Michael Rodriguez.
Bro, that's where I learned like there's different types of communication. Like they had terms for it, like triad. It means you're talking in 3s or 2s or 1s. That shit blew my mind. I was like, all right, it was worth going to college.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was never crazy about school. School for me was the social network.
Yeah.
And the social experience as well. It's where I was able to see a lot of my characters come to life, or where I was able to see material to gather these characters for my own little world and whatever, you know, like, but that class, it wasn't until then that like a class in school was like, oh shit. Like,
yeah, I was excited to go.
Like the Rick Rubin book was a book that I read that became like my Bible. Like,
right.
It spoke to me in levels that like nothing else has. Shout out to Mike Deuce. He's the one that named me that, and he's the one that got me the book. But that class, Individual in Society, it was a communications class, Individual in Society. And if we had the same professor, it left a lasting impact. So
it had to have been, because who else? Like, it wasn't like there's multiple professors.
What year do you remember around?
Probably my sophomore or junior. So I would say 2010 to 2011, maybe. No, 2009 or 2010.
I was later. I was
but it's probably the same guy.
14.
How many professors are?
Yeah, no.
And it was like at 7 p.m. So I was always like, oh, it was like nighttime with like a bunch of people. Like,
Yeah,
it was trippy.
I think it was like a 7:30 to 9:30 or something.
Yeah, and that's where I learned the 7 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Or 6 degrees or 7. Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
That we did that experiment, and bro, now
Everything
like
goes back to
as an
it.
adult, I'm like, yo, like you see how like we're in this room right now, and we were like, oh, how did like it all happened organically because you knew it, but that's literally it, dude. Everyone is connected in some weird ass way.
I really believe in like planting seeds, watering them, nurturing them. Some plants grow different, so you don't have to check in on them all the time, right? So I feel like this entire network and everything that we're like growing, essentially, it's been seeds that have been planted for a long time. Because you look at all the players involved, it's literally 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon where, okay, that person was here the entire time. We're just looking on how to like connect this over here.
Yeah.
And that took that person because we're all like one person away, 1 degree away from separation, right? But we're also 1 degree away from connectivity and like being together. So yeah, it's been a crazy like Spider-Verse. And it's funny that we all have the same words or the same meaning, but different words for it. Because like talking to Brian, it was ecosystem.
Right.
We got like village, we got tribe, we got club. You
But
get me?
we're
Like,
all talking about the same
we're
thing.
all talking about the same thing. And most importantly, with the same like roots behind it. Because it could be the anti whatever club, right? Like how the popular things are, but we're creating something like from the art, from the heart. This is a term here that I'm coining, so we have it on wax and everything on video. But if you have art in your heart, there's a space and a place for you here, and that's what one of the things I'm promoting for like the parties that I'm throwing, the events that I'm throwing, the companies that I'm involved with, like everything, like that's the root of it all. We all come from the similar roots and all of this, and we're producing different fruits. But we're all selling it in the same place together, like same farmer's market per se, because we all have like that same background. And I was like mentioned as like the person that like connects the dots or finds the missing pieces. And shout out to Steph, the love of my life. She came up with, or not came up, she found this term, the Japanese term called kintsugi, which is the Japanese art form of putting back together broken pottery and gluing it back with gold. So the symbolism behind it is you're taking something that's broken, putting it back together and making it even more beautiful than it was. Her word is komorebi, which is the light that filters like through the branches and stuff.
Bars.
Well,
speaking of roots and background, like how did you get? I mean, because you had like weird, not phases. How would you call it? Like not seasons either.
It's not a phase, Mom.
Yeah, I'm looking for the right word. Like if you're in a video game, you had like different career modes.
Wow.
And you just were like, I'm gonna create this player. Now I'm gonna create that player. But like
different avatars almost, and
super like specific weird shit. Not weird shit, but like to the common person, it's like how do you get that job? Or like I don't know which ones you want to touch on. Or
we could touch on everything.
Pause. Yes.
No Diddy.
But like, yeah, working with the Heat as like the banana man, and then like being involved in like LIV as like I don't even know what you would call your title, but similar to what you were explaining earlier, which was basically you were like the connector, the vibe curator, the one that connected the dots for everyone and showed everyone like the hospitality. But like, how do you go from like studying communications and being a baseball player to like, I'm banana man now? Look at me now.
A lot. So my dream was like Ron Burgundy Anchorman on like the funny side, but it was journalism. Stuart Scott on SportsCenter was like goals for me, and Dan Le Batard as a journalist with his Herald writing. I would read everything, and then the radio show at the time. Like I grew up with those three. I mean, Anchorman came in high school, but it was something that allowed me, like, it was still leveling me up to find a connector to both worlds, like the communications world, but then still be creative, because Stuart Scott was so creative with his lines, booyah, you know, cool as the other side of the pillow, like it was bars, like he'd be saying. And then 2003 or 4, it was Anchorman. That was around the time of high school. So it was like all of this stuff leading me up as like, okay, this will be my career. Like if baseball doesn't pan out professionally, this will be my career. So I already made that decision in high school.
Wow.
So I was looking for like universities that were like strictly for broadcasting. Like I'd be studying like PTI around the horn and see where everyone went.
You remember that show that ESPN had to like find the next anchor?
Yeah.
I used to watch that shit.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And I would always like look at like what the qualifications were and stuff. And I'd either be like too young or I didn't have enough credits for something. Syracuse was a big one. Northwestern. UNC was like always a dream, because growing up, my two idols were Griffey and Jordan. So like to hoop with Jordan or play ball with Griffey, and he went straight into the league. So there wasn't a university tied to him. UNC was like the one that I was tied to outside of UM. But no, I ended up going to St. Thomas University. I was studying communications there. I was there for about a year and a half. Then I left to try to pursue baseball at like a independent pro level, bounce around for a bit. And then when I came back to school, I was like, all right, I'm going to get my degree, because my dad always told me, you better give me a degree before I die, okay? So
the paper.
All right. And then I remember like, Kanye, what are you going to do with all these degrees, man? You know, like, these going to keep you warm at night? Like, but I was like, I need to get this done first. So I started tapping in, zeroing in, went back to school. Because I left and was pursuing something pro, I had to start at Dade instead of being able to transfer whatever. So I did Dade and FIU. Dade, I got a degree in journalism, and then FIU was communication arts, organizational communication. Now, the extracurricular stuff started coming in 2009, because I had like odd jobs. I worked in a testing facility where like all the SAT style testing and stuff, we were the ones that would receive the testings and like divide them per schools and whatever.
And was there any foul play involved in there? Or what?
I wasn't there long enough, but I know that for sure. Like at some point in that building,
tests I should have passed for sure.
Mira, oye, don't worry about it. FK, mira, F that. All right.
That was a good one.
I worked there. I worked at Goya. I worked at Goya for one night in the warehouse, and I like threw my back out, and they're like, "Yeah, that job's not for you." And they put me in the office, and I was trafficking beans, Chico. I was the traffic controller over there.
I'm here saying you got like super weird specific jobs, but you had even weirder specific jobs before.
Yeah. Then the first like job in the world that you're speaking of and stuff, I worked for the Marlins for a bit. And I was doing like street team, spin the wheel, win a prize, get your programs here, working in game operations, game presentation, marketing, promotions. And then through that job, I met some people that were working in other organizations. And then shout out to Shayla, that's like big sister there. She was working in the Marlins. She's worked with everyone. And she was they're talking about people in the heat. They're looking for people in the heat. I had already gone to Heat games with a good friend of mine. Shout out to Manny. He had season tickets, and he would invite me to the games when he wouldn't go with Pops. And I would,
communicate.
let loose a little bit. I would let loose a little bit at the games. Like no alcohol, no nothing. Like literally just me expressing myself and that creative that's always been inside. And I like to dance. So I would dance, and I would show up in like random outfits and all of this. And it kind of just like worked out perfect that they were looking for people. I came in at the same time. They saw that I was like this personality, whatever. And then we developed like this, what became the super fan character. So it was involved in the game operations, and it was something that I honestly don't even know the inspiration, how it like struck. But shout out to Jen and Adam. One day, it's just like there's a banana suit, and all the pieces made sense in a way where this just like came to life and then caught fire. But it's also because everything that was happening at the time. Banana Man was born, and about 2 years later, a year and a half later, it's when the big three happened in the Heat. And then the lockout happens the second season. So I don't know what I'm doing for work because we're doing like corporate events and like birthday parties, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs.
And at this
like,
point,
you know, some of these struggle gigs that happen that you're like, I'm only living by these or whatever. At that point, I get approached by Dave Grutman, which he had season tickets. He was at all the games, and he became a big fan of Banana Man. And he had asked me what I was doing for work. I explained to him, and he's like, I think we might have something that might interest you or whatever. Let me get back to you. Literally got back to me in a couple of days, set up a meeting. I went to his office. He was there with his left and right guys. And then presented to me the idea of being the sidekick to this guy, Jimmy Greenup. Now, they presented it in a way like, don't look at it as sidekick because you're not going to understand what he does until you see him. And that spoke to me back to like the whole, like, I would see people and how they are and be able to like understand them and like curate my like presence around them to make them feel good and like feel seen. So I'm like, okay, they presented it to me in a way like, all right, this is like perfect for me. And they're like, and we don't see you as like a sidekick. We see you as like Batman and Superman, but not fighting each other, fighting together. So like, or I guess I haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine or what that's going to be like, but I don't know if they're working together or not, but that'd be
that's
dope.
Cool that they even had like, they created a space for you guys to like be that.
Yeah.
Because
so like you're talking about, you don't know the titles.
Yeah.
So Jimmy came from Vegas in like 2009, I think. And he built what that position is across the world, basically, because everyone would go to places like Vegas and then places like Miami when he moved. So he built this position in Vegas that he got titled Mood Director. So he carried that on through. And then it's like, all right, assistant mood director, what's this guy gonna do? So I became vibe producer.
Wow.
To complement him and make sure like the vibes are all right and the mood is all right. Here we are to combat that.
That's fucking dope because like you don't see most organizations be like, oh yeah, like we should probably get like a mood director or a vibe producer.
No.
Like they're
like,
like, that's a waste.
I take my hat off.
But they saw
something. To think outside of the box.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't even Jimmy's idea. Jimmy didn't, like, when they said, oh, we're going to bring him in, and he's like, no way, him? Like, what? And then when we met, and 2 conversations, 1 shot later, and a confetti blast, and it's like, I feel like I signed a lifetime deal or whatever, because it was like, okay, like I found one of my like creative partners, one of my brothers for life here, no matter what the business was, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it was more like I was more invested in what we could create.
Right.
Like that partnership between Jimmy and I and the world of opportunities, because I really, I don't know, like I put my eggs in a basket when it comes to certain people, and that goes back to the make it personal. But now I don't take things personal as much.
Smart.
Because you live and you learn. But yeah, that was 2011, the lockout.
Yeah.
And then it was working. it was MMG at the time, Miami Marketing Group, before it became Group Hospitality. And it was working LIV, Arcadia at the time, Arcadia Pool, Story, and just like all the fun stuff for it.
So you guys were kind of figuring it out as you went and then establishing like what you guys were actually doing day in and day out.
Yeah.
Basically.
It was more like taking the need and then exceeding the expectations. So
as a creative, that's probably ideal situation. Not like, hey, go do this. You're like, this is what we want to do. Figure it out in your own way.
For us, it was like
a playground.
Okay, I remember it's literally this is what we need. This is what we want. So for sure, we're giving you both things, and then after that, we're gonna give you the thing that's gonna make it special. It's like one thing is required and essential. The next level thing is what makes it special. So that's where having two brains, because Jimmy was already enough, honestly, like having two brains operating at that level. And Brian talks about it too, about like, if I don't know how to do something, I'd rather just hire someone to focus in on what I know how to do, and they can focus in on that. And I might take a hit early or whatever. I feel like they were looking at things like that, because if they took a hit by hiring me, then I started saving them money, and our ideas started getting smarter and savvier and everything. So the partnerships, like more people wanted to work with us because we were like creating more and everything. So that was 2011 to 2020, and Heat was 2009 to 2015.
So did you ever get lost in Banana Man? You get home and you're like, I'm still a banana, or like
nah, like it's insane how
like did you ever have that
how method I am?
Turn off method.
Yeah, like I'm.
You took Banana Man serious.
Very good switch. I never spoke. You know, this is the most that I've ever spoken about the experience. Like right now, like I never spoke as it, and I've never spoken like since it, basically. Like I used to be offered interviews, like all these journalists and stuff that I always wanted to work with regardless. They would always like send me DMs and emails and stuff and reach out to the Heat to try to do interviews, and they're like, he doesn't talk. He doesn't talk. I'm like, I don't talk.
He's a banana. He doesn't talk.
So I had certain components that were, banana-like, and certain components that were human-like. Okay, so I didn't talk, but I danced, and I had a face, but I also had a banana body. You get me? So it's all about balance in my world, my crazy little zany world. And you like how I deliver things. Because you're like, I don't know when you're being serious or not. I'm kind of always being serious if you think about it.
But that's the testament to your comedy. So like
dedication to
how did you then just decide I want to jump into comedy and improv, and that's what I'm doing now? Because that's a crazy like. And I was actually gonna mention like both of you, Roby and you, like in high school, almost college, were like, yeah, no, I think I'm gonna go into like this now. And it's like you guys were playing baseball, and now you're like gonna be actors and comedians. Okay, sure, Bob. Like, how do you
always
that's
had
ballsy.
It in it. Always had it in it. Roby's always had it in him. Like that desire for more. That this doesn't make sense to me. Like a systematic world or whatever. Like a 9 to 5. Like there's more to this life type of thinking.
You were Neo. You were in the Matrix.
Yeah, man.
The chosen one.
I want out. But making that, listen, comedy comes from pain. So I went through a lot of pain to get to that point. 2013, I went through a bad breakup, and then I got ill, and I started battling a bunch of issues with that for still to this day, honestly, like still fighting to get as healthy as I want to be. But it was like, damn, precious moments, right? Like all of this starts like getting zeroed in. So all this like false promises on, you bust your ass, you're going to get this, doesn't happen. You see the finish line, it gets extended. It was a mirage the entire time. I went through a lot of like heartbreaks in the business side of things because I'm not a business guy. I'm a people guy.
Right.
And a lot of lessons learned, like mentioned before. So it wasn't until 2019, I unfortunately hit like my highest financial point and my lowest emotional point. And I'm just a shell of myself. Like I'm looking at myself and I don't recognize myself, like that type of vibe. Has nothing to do with how I like physically look and what I'm wearing per se.
Right.
But just like I'm looking into my eyes and I'm soulless, you know? And shout out to me because I drive a Kia Soul. I've always been in Soul. A lot of haters on the Kia Soul, all right? But my Kia Soul's the
There's
best. I
that
got a great
humor.
story with it and everything.
I was about to cry, and then you hit me
You
with
see,
a
I pull
fucking
you right
banger,
back, bro.
dude.
I saw the tears coming. I go, not in the creator shades. Not now.
Wizard, dude.
And it's my lowest point at this time. Shout out to my boy Carlos. He really looked out for me at that time. Said like you can't go down this route. Like start like tapping into like who you are. This one line, what did you want to be before you gave up? And that like instead of what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, like what did you want to be before you gave up?
That's hard.
And I was like, oof. And I started peeling back all the layers on that. And it took me back to my childhood bedroom and all the little shows that I was putting on and all the dreams that I had in that room at that time. In 2015, I started my podcast, The Three List, because that was like the beginning of tapping into like that more than a passion project. Hopefully it becomes like a show or whatever. Like go after that dream, see like pull back the curtain and see if there's something there for it. Started doing that. I did one season and then we shelved it because, you know, the 3 people involved were shooting out of a 4th person's house.
Yeah.
Family, life, etc. So we shelved it and I brought it back in 2022. And we haven't stopped since. I'm very proud with it. Shout out to Frank and Billy. They're the original 3 lists. Now I'm rolling with Billy and the 3rd person is you and whoever else. But that's one of the things that are under the umbrella of my world of acting, comedian, host, exactly, producer, performer. 2019 was that turning point. 2020, the Pandeezy hits, and I kind of Homer Simpson out of the game, you know, into the shrubs. Nobody knows what the hell is going on, what's going to happen. The hospitality world took the biggest hit, obviously, like outside of everyone, like, and shout out to Steph because she's a nurse and she was working COVID cardiac ICU at the time.
Front lines.
So it was like horror stories galore. Not seeing me, not seeing her pops, like literally the craziest of times. And it was like a silver lining for me in a weird way because I just had my lowest point the year before. So it's like going into this, it's like, this isn't even stopping me. Like
It was probably the best thing that could
it helped
happen
me
because everyone paused and now you're like, all right,
yeah.
let me mess around here.
And I was able to, again, zero in and start putting together a plan per se. So I started tapping into what are my passions, and it's always been the arts. Like first and foremost, it's always been the arts. Music is at my core. Not as a musician, but as a fan, like as an appreciator. I barely DJ'd, but I love DJing and everything that DJs do. Big fan of yours.
Thanks,
since
bro.
day one, and a big fan of your eye and your aesthetic and everything. Because
Thanks, bro.
everything from your Zaya Studios and Making Now Media and your flyers from back in the day and the evolution of everything to where you're at now. I've always been a fan of all those things because of what raised me, right? Like I go back to Bob Ross and the Reading Rainbow and the like science and like make it cool and make it fun and make it whatever. So 2020 was that time that I started like reaching out to people that I knew in these spaces. And I only wanted to involve myself in the world of creatives, in the world of art, performing arts, etc. I was still tiptoeing with a bunch of things. And honestly, it wasn't until I was watching like 3 different things back to back that was like the perfect recipe that just like set the plan in motion for me to like really pursue the dream, because it took me back to the original moment that I had seen Robin Williams at in San Francisco, like a video of him doing improv, and then me like seeing who else was involved. And then it opened up this 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, which led me to The Second City. And this is as a jit, like, again, I was a huge Jordan fan. So I remember Chicago Bulls. Like, I wanted to see that damn, the damn statue at the United Center. Like, that was always like a huge dream. But then I remember that The Second City was also in Chicago. It came from Toronto and this pipeline and whatever, but I was like, I need to get to Chicago. That was as a kid. So whether it was for the Bulls or for my real like gut thing of like performing. And it wasn't until 2021, 2022 that I saw like all these videos in a row this one day. I started like saying, how old is this person? How old is that person? How old is this person? I started, because I have to trick myself, right? I have to convince myself and give myself a trillion pros to go against like the one con maybe. And it just got to this point that I was like, I need to pursue it. And I didn't want to do it here. If I was going to do it, I was going to cannonball in. Similar to like, if you're going to do nightlife, you're going to move to Vegas, you know? Fact. And I think you and Brian doing that, you left with like another degree per se, right?
100%. And life.
So Roby did it with New York, you know, in acting. And people have done it with New York, Chicago, LA when it comes to that. And I was like, this is a necessity. Luckily, I have the greatest partner in the world that she's like, you have to do this. You need to do this. Like, I'm going to help you do this. Or like, do your research and let's figure this out. And low key, like the only research I didn't have is where I was going to stay, because everything else I had, I knew every school, every theater, every like, I went over there super geeked with a program in mind. And I realized a lot of things about myself at that time. You know, like I went to the Coliseum and like I didn't die. And by the end of it, like some people knew my name too. So like,
you surprised yourself.
Here. 100%. 100%, because I'm one of these people, I was taught training and hard work is like everything and blah, blah, blah. But like sometimes something's natural to you.
Yeah.
And you'll just gravitate to that. And low key, you've probably been doing it your whole life. So you've been getting that training, just not formal. Yeah. Because I've said like, I'm street smart, not book smart. And now I just got my book smart training. So, uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's hard to like accept that part of like, because you're not used to doing that thing, but you're like, bro, I don't know what it is, but I'm like good at it for some reason, but you don't allow yourself to like pursue it.
Yeah.
But you just went like, fuck it. My gut's telling me I gotta go.
What was the gut instinct for you to go over and go all the way cross country, pretty much almost the whole way to Vegas?
No, for me, it started off as a solely a DJ move. Like, oh, this makes sense for me. I'm like, I don't like what's happening in Miami right now. And I'm tired of doing the same thing. I need something different. And I want to go to like the Mecca, like, you know, and I know a bunch of guys out there and I've been visiting for a while and I just see like, I need to be there if I really want to do this. But it turned into like, oh, like, no, this is not what I want to do at all. Which was the greatest lesson I ever learned.
Yeah.
Like, had to go, but it's the same thing. Like something told me to go, but I thought it was for a reason. But the reason that it turned out to be was like, bro, you're chasing this thing that's like not really your goal. Because once you get a taste of it, you're like, okay, let's say I become like I keep going this route and I get to the top. How does that feel? How does that look? And I'm like, oh, bro, I'm going to be miserable. So that's like when it took me like 2 years to be like, oh, the point is that like this isn't my shit. Like it's part of my creativity, but I really need to dive into like my gut is telling me like I have so much more to like offer and so much more that I can do. But obviously it took a while to like process that. Now I can say it like easily, but then it was like my gut telling me you should come back, like things are whatever. Then a pandemic hits and I'm like, wow, thank God I'm home and like I'm here. And then the pandemic let me even more dive into these things. And then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can't DJ forever. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but because I personally can't see myself doing that. So I don't know what the question was, but yeah, I think it started off.
Yeah, what took you over there?
Yeah,
basically?
It started off as like, yeah, I need to be like, I want to see it for myself. Like, whoa, what's?
Well, yeah, very similar to what I was explaining, like tiptoeing.
Yeah,
you were
exactly.
tiptoeing before, and then
I was like, if I'm gonna do it, I gotta do it, right? I gotta go to New York, I gotta go to Chicago, I gotta like see like what the fuck is it? And then I saw what the fuck it was.
And you grow through what you go through. So you have that experience and you learn something about yourself. LeBron says, more than an athlete, you're more than a DJ.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you found out about yourself in that instance. Because you could have easily been extra geeked about DJing and just been deep end and been like, I'm staying here forever and I'm doing this and I'm entering all these festivals and competitions and DJ
and then I would see the people that are geeked and I'm like, oh, I'm never gonna be as good as them because I'm not geeked. Not that I if I was geeked, I'd be number one, like in my head.
Because of dedication, though.
Because I'm like, when you're younger, it's like you wake up and I was DJing at 7 a.m. before I went to school because I was like, so geeked of like how to get it right and like new records and this and that. But like, if you're not geeked or like just love it because of it's what you do, you're never gonna beat that guy that's like literally up at 7 a.m. because why not? Or like DJing till 3 a.m, coming up with ideas after he just finished DJing or like not that I had to. It took me a long time to like, okay, it's just a creative outlet because I like being creative and mixing things up, not just like music. But yeah,
was that your first more than a DJ moment?
Well, no, that's the thing, that I had a lot of those moments growing up, but I just was like suppressing it. I was like, nah, DJ.
So this is the one that solidified it.
Yeah, going over there was like, oh shit, like I've been like
for sure.
I've been hiding this.
DJ.
Yeah, I've been hiding this shit over here and keeping it on the low, but like it was like that itch of like, nah, I gotta do more. Like it's not just DJing. But yeah, I remember when I first started graphic design, no one knew, and I would have like an alias, and I'd be like, oh, my boy does the designs, my boy, and I had this whole intricate thing that I would have to tell people like, oh no, I'll let him know, like, yo, I could just text him directly. I'm like, nah, bro, is that he doesn't like talking. Like,
the artist vibe. And,
because I didn't want anyone knowing, like, oh, that's
he tags and stuff too, so he's kind of on the run.
I used to think it was whack, like, oh, how's this DJ also doing this? Now 2024 is like vice versa, like, you only DJ.
How are you not doing everything?
Right. So, but for a long time, I was like, nah. All I do is DJ. Like, look at my Instagram. I'm fucking everywhere.
Hey, you see, like I was taught, student athlete, right?
Yeah.
And I liked both for different reasons. So for me, I had my you're more than an athlete and you're more than a student moment, like immediately. Like you're this people person. And my dad used to tell me growing up, you should be like a politician or a lawyer. Like because of the way that you just like want to deal with people so much. And
that's the best.
You got to go to school
valuable
for
school,
those. And I just told you like, nah, I'm not too keen on that school stuff.
Thank God that I didn't figure out school, but I figured out like, oh yeah, like this, I'm just getting a paper from my parents. So like, let me do the best possible route I could do that while also like I can take whatever I want. So when I failed college algebra, I was like, yeah, let me switch my major.
Same.
Switch my major to the easiest.
It's the only class I ever failed.
Yeah, it was the highest rate of failure too in FIU.
Oh, wow.
I changed my major to international relations, which meant like you have 40 electives and then like 4 like core classes. And that's how I ended up in individual society, history of the Beatles, history of jazz.
I took that class too.
Yeah, because you get it.
Wow.
I was like, how can I
still have that book at home.
I was like, how can I just take whatever the fuck I want if I'm gonna try to be here for 4 years? And those are the greatest decision I ever made.
International affairs or relations?
Which actually, in hindsight, I'm actually probably either
you can
that
work at the UN. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Either that or psychology, I would have probably liked. But I'm glad I took it because now I understand what's going on in the world.
So you see how we're like a yin yang here?
And I took film studies because I had so many electives that I could get a certificate in film studies. Like, bro, I was in theater. Like, I'm an actor, dude. Basically what I'm trying to tell you guys is I fucking act, bro.
The first question I'm gonna ask you on the 3 list will be, all right, introduce yourself now that you're over here. Now you got actor credits now, so.
I mean, I was in a...
Oh, no, we got to get together with Roby.
I was in a high school play once.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Tell me more. Because now we can cross that Venn diagram.
Okay,
what's the first thing you ever did? Even if it was,
I might have been stretching it, but I was in the background.
Okay. High school?
I don't even think I was a tree. I was like holding the leaf that was part of a tree.
This guy.
But I was part of the process, bro. I was part of the process, bro.
Did you ever have this like DJing moment that like, oh my God, I'm the DJ?
Oh yeah. What do you mean? Like
because first time I ever did improv, like I stepped, like I was terrified. I stepped on stage and it was like, oh shit. What just happened? Everything like calmed down, like, oh, you should be doing this. And then you start doing stuff and you're like, hey, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So, hey, did you have that moment like,
I'm
the DJ, yo?
Yeah, you have that a couple times. Like the first time, even when I was like absolutely terrible and like train wrecking, bro, I was like, yeah, this is it. Like I'm doing it, like at a house party or something. But then gradually you get like higher level and then you're like in the middle of a mansion with 1,000 people and you're like chilling and you're like crushing it, or in my eyes, crushing it.
Because you get in the zone.
Because you're in the zone and you're like, oh yeah, like that was nothing, and I'll get back on later, no problem. Like when you're like comfortable in that environment, it's like, oh yeah, like I'm supposed to be here. Like I'm nervous all the way up to it. I'm stressing all week, but then that's 2-3 hours. I'm like, yeah, this is like no stress. It's awesome. But yeah, I think you gotta have those moments to be like, oh, okay, yeah, because you can't be like shitting bricks every time, because then it's not like natural. But then I had those moments after where I'm like, oh, like I can DJ in one night, but then during the day I'm like creating this whole thing for someone, and then I'm like also editing this video for myself after DJing. Like that was what I started realizing, that I liked the entire process from start to finish. Like I didn't like, oh, I need a videographer, or like I was like, nah, like I'll have this vision. I'm gonna start from making the flyer of the night to like the mix that goes post the gig, and then that's gonna tie into this like recap that I do, and then that's gonna tie into the email that I send everyone, my contacts, that then shows like everywhere I've been, and then a Venn diagram of like all the cities, and I'm thinking like a 3-month thing in my head, and I'm like, oh, that's dope. Instead of like, yeah, I just DJ'd it last night. So that's where I was like, I started even like as young, I was getting my GoPro and doing like week recaps of like the whole week of me DJing and like chilling and whatever. But I always had that in my head.
All on your own.
Yeah. I just got a GoPro and like go around and like shoot the B-roll, me DJing, me and like at a Getty at like a friend's house, and like put the whole shit together. That's what I was like, oh, there's something here. The DJing was just like cherry on top.
Yeah.
Like another thing I did.
One-stop shop though. Like literally with everything.
Yeah, I mean,
and that was part of your training to get you to this point too.
There you go. I mean, this is an interview for me, dude. I'm finding things out about myself through you.
And that is exactly what the Cuban Rick Rubin experience is like, bro. Dude, every single time.
Full circle.
That's literally how it is.
So
we came back now full circle to tie this.
But then I feel like throughout your life, humor's been like a constant, like, is that like being funny or comedy important to you in like everything you do?
Yeah.
Or it's just natural?
Both. Well, both. That's why it's important, because when I would shun it and like put it out of the way, it was me being unnatural. Because naturally I want to be funny and loose and kind and chill. So for me, sometimes a coping mechanism for sure. I will deflect to comedy, but not like in we're having a serious conversation. I start acting like the Three Stooges or something. Like
Yeah.
I won't do anything like that. But maybe a couple sentences in, I might say something with a straight face, and it comes off as like, was that a joke? Was it not a joke? Fuck, it's him again. But comedy to me is the most natural thing in the world. And it's also my most natural language. It's what I understand the most. It's the way that timing, again, because of that, like certain deliveries, you need to just have that. Like you can't learn that, you can't teach that. And I remember just always having that and then adopting things throughout the years to strengthen this comedy love and natural feeling that I had. So I would say I use it a lot for sure. But it also comes from pain. So a lot of the time I do it because to lighten a situation or something. I rather be the jester sometimes to offset something, that needs it, because that's kind of like everything that I looked at that I've done in my life. Like when it comes to the weird jobs at the Heat, you don't know what people are going through when they go to the games. So they want their team to win. They want a good time while they're there. So look at this guy, dude. Look at these people, and the Heat do a great job at putting together a great show with the in-arena staff that they have and the game ops team. Like, bro, the game presentation for the Heat, like I've gone to so many arenas. They're easily top 5, top 3, with the DJs, with the dancers, mascots, extreme team, like everyone and the staff, bro, like just everyone in there too. You're making people forget about their week, their day. You don't know if you're taking a picture with someone that's sick or not, or dealing with some shit. Same thing at the club. Like people are like, oh my God, you're around all of this. I'm not looking at that, bro. You know how many people go to forget their problems at the club? So what are we gonna do? Like put together a show that they're gonna be like, oh my God, completely wipes out everything that they were dealing with for the past 24, 36, 72 hours, the past week, past month. And they have this one moment. It might be a vacation.
Yeah.
Like that's what really like gets me going, like that's what I find the real direct connection to comedy and pain, or like literally just human to human, because I feel that, like I feel that we all feel. So you don't know what everyone is going through. That I'd rather be in the business of fun and memories and good vibes and good times and working with good people, creating dope stuff. Like Adrian, shout out to Adrian. I think he's the one that literally, this home, but he's also the one that said like working with good people to create dope things, like I'm in the business of that, in the business of fun and comedy. My comedy is the type that's like just like fun, relatable. That's my message. Again, from back in the day, all my influences on TV that I mentioned previously. And then my 3 main influences for real were Will Smith on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like that character specifically. I can see that. Robin Williams in everything.
Harry Knuckles.
And my dad. Like literally my dad, because he is a character within himself. Yeah. El Chati, the legend. He is a character within himself. And those 3 were really like, and I operate in 3 list. Like my brain just like functions that way. I don't know why.
How do you like avoid, like you say your brain functions in like different ways and you're wearing like a lot of different hats. So how do you like not get burnt out creatively creatively while you're like trying to do this over here, trying to do that over there, trying to help this person do this. And it's like sometimes your brain is like, yo, crossing wires.
Yeah, that was my wires were crossed leading up to, I would say, the past year. Like literally since I've been back. I mean, I haven't been back for a year since Chicago, but literally in the last couple months. Chicago was like this one experience that I went there for this purpose of learning, studying, playing, connecting. Like it was all comedy, workshops, courses, classes, everything. Coming back, it was like getting my degree for that, but coming back to, okay, how do I implement everything? Yes, it's expensive, right? And I used to be thin. I used to be thinner than the little paper that you put to poop so your butt doesn't touch the toilet. Thinner than that. Like, I couldn't. So I needed to rework things. I needed to come up with a better system, a better plan for myself. And I was completely selfless. So that's what happened. I needed to be selfish in the sense of saying, me first. All right, check in with you first before you start going to all these things I'm wearing all these hats and I'm working with all these people. I need to check in with myself first, and I wasn't doing that. So in doing that, I came up with what system works for me. Again, my mind is crazier than this incredible painting here. It's more complex, so I needed to find a way to, I think it's TLC, Hoarders, right? That does it. I needed to find a way to call them and get them in here to help me out. I have a system in my head that's kind of like a cafeteria. So I break it down into lunch tables. So literally you have a table and you have several seats at that table. In high school, I was the guy that didn't sit at one table for longer than 2 minutes.
I know those guys, yeah.
I had a ham and cheese croissant, a Gatorade, and some freshly baked chocolate chip cookies from the abuelitas in high school. And I would go from table to table and check in with everybody. So that was probably the politician in me or whatever, but just checking in. Like that, my news wasn't the news. My news was like what the people were talking about. Like I'd rather hear that. Tap into the neighborhood, the culture, la cultura. And that's when I really like was where it was birthed, that I was able to have this system that then 15, 20 years later, I translate into like this life now as a creative and working with creatives in the creative world, et cetera. It's this cafeteria. It's this cafeteria system. The high school lunch tables. You had the jocks, the musicians here, the artists here, nature kids, science kids, like drama, like by clubs like that. The tables were the same way. I didn't have time to go to every single club, but I have time to go to every single lunch table. So I kind of developed or like reworked that original method that I had into this world now.
La cafeteria.
Yeah.
Damn.
A comer todo mundo.
Never heard an analogy like that. Makes sense though. Well, I like to leave every guest with my one last question.
Wow.
So I hope you can answer it for me. So what does creativity mean to you?
Everything. It's our entire existence. Every single second that, like, to break it down in the most micro of levels, but every single second that we're alive, we're creating something. So I mentioned earlier about I like being in the business of fun and creating memories, whether it's through acting in a play, a show, doing improv, a sketch, a skit, a conversation, a podcast, a performance, hosting something. Like, it's all different creations with the intention of it being for fun, art from the heart. So, bro, creativity is literally everything. We are all creations. We are all creators at the end of the day. I hate that thought that, oh no, I'm not a creator because I don't do this, or no, look, they made this. They're like, I've mentioned to people, you're an artist. If you're an artist, you're a creator. If you're a creator, you're an artist. Because you created your art, whatever it is. And art is subjective, right? But you created your art. And if you're an artist, you created something. So that goes hand in hand, that we're all just creations of art and creators of our days, our lives, our entire thing. Like getting super, we are the universe and all of that, like that deeper level, but we are the creators of our own universe in that sense. So creativity is literally existence. Creativity is being. Creativity is essential. Creativity is breathing. Creativity is what we're doing right now. This process, creativity is everything. And I appreciate you having me a part of your creative process, which allows me to get creative with you. Shout out to Roby on the decks. I don't even know if any of this is recorded, but if it is, he gets all the credit in the world. And if it isn't, we'll be back to do it again.
I hope so, dude. I think I've done a pretty good job here, but we'll see.
Amazing.
But the official Creative Lab.
Creative Lab. I mean, this is the first episode out of the hub, our brains, basically.
Yeah.
It's all our brains combined. And that mosquito too.
Get that out of here, dude. See, I can't have a mosquito land on me because then it goes against everything I believe.
I was watching that mosquito just chilling on you right there. There we go. But yo, thank you for coming through. I really appreciate. I mean, you didn't come through. This is your home. Like, thank you for sitting in and chopping it up with me. It was a pleasure, bro. Make sure you plug in your podcast and your Instagram.
Yeah. Shout out to everything that we're doing here first and foremost, because Cultura Media House needs its flowers, and Adrian Lorenzo, and my podcast, The Three List. That's 3 LEST. It's 3 of the realists. Me, Billy, and who knows who. Could be you might be next.
I think so.
But yeah, we got a lot of cool things coming across the board, whether it's my podcast, your podcast, the company as a whole. And just want to give you your flowers on everything that you've done too, man. It's not easy to get anything going off the ground. So shout out to you.
Appreciate it.
And also doing this while being a father as well.
Thank you, bro.
Father, husband, buena gente, link up. Shout out to you, man.
Thank you, bro.
You are an inspiration as an artist, as a creator, and just as a human as well. So I'm glad that our roots finally intertwined here and we're creating some fruits together, brother.
Full circle, bro. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.